Hello. So 2021 has seen perhaps more than its fair share of royal news connected with the British royal family. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about um, British constitutional matters, specifically terminology. Now, although I come from a teaching background, I don't see myself as a grammar fascist. I'm not the sort of person to follow up on grammar so much. I'm not going to kind of call out someone because they've spelt a word wrong. However, I must admit I do get a little bit annoyed by inaccuracies regarding basic geography and also issues around um, not I don't want to say constitutional matters. That sounds stuffy, but just basic trying to think of the right word here. Basic details of things. And I think especially it's inexcusable for seasoned journalists. And you see this quite a lot. I can sort of understand a layperson, but I think seasoned journalists should really know better. So what I want to talk about here is the title of this lady, our head of state, Queen Elizabeth II. Actually a silver jubilee mug, 44 years old now, from her silver jubilee in 1977. And yes, I have just watched a Crown episode featuring that. Interestingly enough, it's or it's one of the few takes on the Crown that doesn't feature a serving Prime Minister. It featured Harold Wilson, who was in ill health. Of course, he resigned in 1976, but it doesn't feature James Callaghan. Um, and that's interesting because all the other prime ministers, apart from Lord Home, are featured in The Crown so far. So poor old Sonny Jim gets a miss. Um, but anyway, I want to talk about a basic terminology that people often make a mistake about. How many times do you hear the expression Queen of England? This is an anachronism. There is no Queen of England right now, and there hasn't been a Queen of England technically for 3 centuries. So let me explain. To my British viewers, you probably should know, but I don't want to seem like a pompous ass. So, I have an interest in history, so I'll just clarify this. But to international viewers, again, there's confusion around this, particularly with our American cousins. Very often, Americans talk about the Queen of England. Even Canadians and Australians do, and they're part of, their subjects as well. But this is an anachronism, and this is the reason why. In the year 1707, the kingdoms of England and Scotland unified formally in a political union which became the Kingdom of Great Britain. Now, in 1800, this then extended to Ireland to become the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. And these were very, very important acts in our parliamentary history and our constitutional history, known as the Acts of Union. And they basically led to the state that we have today, which is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which was formalised in 1922 with the partition of Ireland. So that's really the full name of this country, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. As such, Queen Elizabeth II is not Queen of England, she is Queen of the United Kingdom. Now, that might seem a bit kind of trivial or pedantic, but it's important to understand that because when people talk about the Queen of England, it's ignoring the fact that she is also the Queen of Scotland, of Wales, of Northern Ireland, of the Crown dependencies, of Canada, of Australia, of New Zealand, and of other territories, which these days include small Caribbean nations. Um, Basically, remnants of the British Empire, not the whole of the former British Empire, but um, some remnants of it. Remnants sounds very dismissive. I don't mean that sound the way it sounded, but yeah, she's not Queen of England. England is one of her. uh, domains. It's obviously her throne is located in England, in Buckingham Palace. And I guess you could say she's Queen of England insofar as it's part of her realm, but her title is not and never has been Queen of England. Now, granted, saying Queen of England is a lot easier to say than Sovereign of the Commonwealth realm or even Queen of the United Kingdom. But, that would be like saying Joe Biden is President of New York. It's just not accurate. She's not Queen of England, she's Queen of the United Kingdom. Uh, so actually, the last true Queen of England to have that title um, would be Queen Anne, who was styled as Queen Anne, Queen of England, Scotland, and Ireland from 1702, which was her accession, to 1707, when the Acts of Union made her Queen of Great Britain. So actually, one could argue that Anne was the first true British monarch. Um, King James VI of Scotland, stylized as King James I of England, was arguably the first British monarch as well, but he was the first king, the first monarch to preside over the Union of the Crowns in 1603. However, this was purely a royal union. It was still not a political union at that point. And the reason was, again, a little bit of history. Queen Elizabeth I, who is generally regarded as one of our greatest monarchs, and who presided over the first Elizabethan age, which was a great age of discovery, the age of Shakespeare, the age of Sir Francis Drake, Sir Walter Raleigh, and so on. Um, she died childless, and so James, her nephew, became king. This is the James who's associated with King James Bible and also with witch hunts of the early 17th century. Actually, though, he was not the fanatical religionist that sometimes he's portrayed. Um, in fact, the his book Demonology, which was sort of a guide, so to speak, for prosecuting witch trials, was also to ensure the innocent weren't caught up. Now, of course, I'm talking 400 years ago, so everything to do with context of the time. But yeah, so that's basically. I'll go through that again. King James I of England, James VI of Scotland. There have been five previous King Jameses in Scotland. Um, in fact, King James IV of Scotland was the last British monarch to die on the battlefield at the Battle of Flodden in 1513, in which actually Henry VIII's consort, Queen Catherine of Aragon, her her regiment of English forces defeated a Scottish force. It was a very bloody battle, thousands slaughtered. So very famous in British history, the Battle of Flodden. But King James IV of Scotland was the last British monarch to die on the field ever. Richard III was the last English monarch. However, James IV of Scotland was the last British monarch from either nation to die on the battlefield. Um, so anyway, that's not really relevant to the video. I'm just saying that in passing. King James I, therefore, of England, was also stylized as King James VI of Scotland. Actually, when our current Queen came to the throne, there was a minor controversy in Scotland insofar as technically she is the first Queen Elizabeth in Scotland, but as a unified nation, she is Elizabeth II. Um, so James II of England was also stylized King James VII of Scotland. That was he was had a short reign, 16, I think it was 1680 to 1685, something like that, or 1683 to 1685. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's a bit of British history. Now, I don't want to seem too pedantic and pompous about the point. I'm not going to stop and correct people, but it's just worth knowing. Queen of England is just anachronistic. England is part of her realm, of course. So I suppose in that sense she is Queen of England, but her style, her title is Queen of the United Kingdom. Um, just on a personal note, with the passing of the Duke of Edinburgh, she's obviously now a widow. Queen Victoria was a widow for almost 40 years. With our current monarch, obviously, it isn't going to be that long, but it must be a strange feeling for her. And I think that when she passes, which will be inevitable, it's going to be a very, very strange feeling in this country because so many of us have known her for so long. She's the mother of the nation. Um, it's going to be a very strange thing when Queen Elizabeth II passes. And if you think there's big coverage of the death of Philip, it's going to be absolutely massive as a news story when she passes because she is the queen of the modern age. You know, 2/3 of a century. It's no small thing. I mean, she is so, so familiar. Even people who don't consider themselves royalists, even Republicans, she is always there. So I think when she passes, it's going to be massive. Quite honestly, I was thinking about this. Apart from my mother and girlfriends and my sister, she's probably the most important woman in my life. That sounds, I don't want that to sound sycophantic, but really, it's true.